Hey everyone, welcome to this explainer. I am absolutely thrilled you're tuning in because today we are tackling a really common universal challenge in education. How do we make classic Victorian era literature genuinely engaging for modern students? Let's be real for a second. Charles Dickens was paid by the installment, and man, sometimes it really feels like he was paid by the word. Approaching that incredibly dense prose can be super intimidating, but we're going to explore a fascinating research study that proves we definitely don't need to leave the classics behind. We just need to completely overhaul how we deliver them. Do you remember being in high school, just staring blankly at some massive, dusty novel? You were probably sitting in a super quiet classroom, listening to a teacher drone on about themes and symbols while you desperately tried to just keep your eyes open. It felt totally disconnected, highly abstract, and incredibly dry, right? Well, that passive rote memorization approach is exactly what educational researchers are trying to dismantle today. Okay, let's dive right into this. For the longest time, the traditional approach was basically rote memorization, literally putting kids to sleep. And it simply doesn't work for building genuine competence. The modern world demands something entirely different from us. The whole goal of education today is to develop 21st century analytical skills, critical thinking, problem solving, and active participation. Today's students live in this highly stimulating, fast-paced digital world, so handing them a 19th century text without any modern scaffolding is just setting them up for total frustration. So that brings us to a specific educational shift happening over in Jordan. To align with national goals to really modernize education, the Ministry of Education adopted what's called the High Note curriculum. And this represents a massive strategic shift toward a dynamic, skills based approach. It includes this really interesting literature spot designed not just for basic linguistic competence, but to actually help students connect personally with diverse literary texts, evaluate the characters, and build well supported arguments. But here's the real Mythbuster concept for us today. The real barrier to learning classic literature isn't the text itself. Students don't just inherently hate Charles Dickens. What they actually struggle with is the delivery method. So when a researcher and teacher working with 12th grade girls in the Recife district noticed her students were completely failing to grasp characters and themes using standard in-class note-taking, she had this light bulb moment. She realized she had to redesign her entire approach from the ground up. Section 1. The blended digital solution. Let's see how she actually fixed this. Right, so to understand her intervention, we need to quickly ground ourselves in a concept called MAL, which stands for Mobile Assisted Language Learning. Sounds highly academic, but it's simply the use of handheld devices to assist or enhance the language learning experience. While we so often think of screens as purely distractions in the classroom, MAL flips that narrative completely. It suggests that mobile technologies can actually create interactive, highly meaningful contexts that bridge the gap between formal and informal learning. And the tech stack this teacher deployed is honestly brilliant. She didn't just hand out an iPad and hope for the best. She built a highly engineered, multi-layered environment. She used Zoom for live instruction, YouTube videos to simplify those really complex historical ideas, carefully selected movie clips for visualization, interactive PowerPoints to structure the analysis, and Google Forms for immediate feedback. Literally every single tool had a specific, intentional purpose. There's this great quote from a researcher named Alta Mimi who noted that this underlying philosophy transforms the learning context to make it, quote, more tangible and fun. And that's exactly it. By bringing multimedia resources directly to the students, the teacher created a differentiated, learner-centered classroom. It's the kind of environment that naturally taps into really high levels of student autonomy and inner motivation. If we zoom out to the macro level for a second, this all ties right back to Vygotsky's zone of proximal development, or ZPD. Basically, ZPD is the distance between what a learner can do completely independently and what they can do with a little guidance. Think of it like training wheels on a bicycle. Digital tools act as these vital training wheels, providing the visual and interactive support students need to reach their absolute highest potential and allowing them to confidently figure things out with their peers and teachers in real time. Section 2, Great Expectations via Zoom. Let's look at how this played out in a real classroom. And this brilliantly illustrates the exact scaffolded lesson plan the teacher used to teach Charles Dickens's Great Expectations. First up, YouTube. She used it to lay down the historical context and ground the students in the period. Then, she moved to specific movie clips to help them visually understand that dense Victorian era, those quirky characters, and the crazy plot twists. And finally, she seamlessly brought them into an interactive presentation to dissect the themes and characters all together. By visualizing these abstract elements, students were totally transformed from passive recipients into active participants. Take a character like Miss Havisham, for example. The visceral imagery of her stopped clocks and that decaying wedding dress helps students instantly connect an abstract idea, like emotional stagnation and deep trauma, to a very concrete visual. They weren't just staring at old words anymore, they were actively seeing and experiencing the symbolism. Because of all this multimodal exposure, these 12th grade students were suddenly able to dissect some seriously high-order literary elements. In their Zoom breakout rooms, they were successfully analyzing core themes like ambition and social class. They were mapping out the intricate development of characters like Pip and Estella, and even navigating really complex figurative language, deep symbolism, and the overall tone and mood of the text. The leap in their analytical capability was just profound. Section 3. The assessment and results. Time for the big question. Did this digital intervention actually work? Well, to find out, the researcher targeted a very specific sample size for the study: 36 female 12th grade students from the Recife district in Jordan. And importantly, these were the exact same students who had previously struggled immensely with the old-school rote memorization approach. So, the crucial point is, the performance data was absolutely astounding. Following the blended digital sessions, they took this rigorous 15-question test covering high-level literary analysis. Nearly 64% of the students demonstrated high achievement, meaning they showed excellent or very good mastery. Almost 28% showed medium achievement, and only 8.3% remained at a low achievement level. If we take a nuanced look at the breakdown, the vast majority of these students confidently mastered theme identification, character analysis, and understanding tone and mood. They could actually pull textual evidence to prove their points. However, to be completely transparent, the researcher noted that the remaining 8% still needed a bit of scaffolding when it came to critical thinking, deeper symbolic interpretation, and analytical writing. And honestly, that's vital information because it tells a teacher exactly where to target their future interventions. But why were the numbers so incredibly high overall? The data points directly to the environment itself. Live Zoom sessions allowed for real-time discussion, collaborative interpretation of really tough passages, and immediate on-the-spot feedback from the teacher. The technology actively fostered a dynamic dialogue rather than passive listening. It significantly reduced their cognitive load and deeply supported their ability to actually make meaning out of the text. Section 4. The future of learning. Let's talk about what this means going forward. The immense success of this study is pretty much a home run for the overarching goals of modern educational philosophy. When we integrate digital tools purposefully, education truly becomes learner-centered, it becomes inquiry-based, and most importantly, it connects abstract, centuries-old texts to the students' real lives and emotions. It completely proves that learning isn't just a solitary act of staring at a page. It is a highly dynamic, interactive process. We are seeing such a beautiful evolution in the classroom. The role of the teacher has evolved from just a simple transmitter of facts into a true facilitator of discovery. The teacher is there to curate the digital experience, to ask the right guiding questions, and to foster meaningful, lasting connections between the learners and whatever they're reading. The researcher actually summed up this whole transformation perfectly, noting, "I was not simply assessing their comprehension. I was observing how they gradually moved from reading words to living inside the text." Wow, that is the ultimate goal of teaching literature, right? Not memorizing dry plot points, but actually living inside the narrative. We've just seen how a smart mix of Zoom and YouTube totally rescued Charles Dickens from a dusty shelf and brought him to life for 12th grade students in Jordan. So I want to leave you with this provocative thought. Whether you're a student, a working professional, or just a lifelong learner, how could digital tools transform the way you learn today? Think about it and keep exploring.